Hello, hi, this is week 12. I'm just going to take a few moments to remind everybody of some of the background issues in this in some ways, controversial topic we're discussing. Information communication technology. The course is not about the gee whiz issues associated with it, how wonderful 3D and 4D printing are, etc. And you know that. A lot of your comments have been very circumspect about the way you look at things. But I wanted to just bring up these 5 issues, and many of them have to do with the payoff, which can be, as the title of the course originally suggested, positive or negative. The Gini coefficient you've already seen is a way of measuring whether income inequality is increasing or decreasing, and it is a pretty interesting number, very controversial, and I've given you several reading assignments based on it. So it's measurable. Some of these issues associated with automation are measurable. Cui bono, that's just a reminder. It's a Latin phrase which means for whose benefit. So some of the big questions that are coming up now in this subject, particularly in the policy arena, are whether it's if you want to, for example, in network neutrality, if you want to assist big companies through network neutrality, is it for their benefit or is it for the common good? It's an interesting question. It's part of almost any policy decision. The next 2 have to do with where people go if they are displaced by technology, and the question of whether there is alternative employment for them, which many of the political individuals mention is definitely out there. Many say it's not. So the displacement issue is a very significant one, and I just wanted to remind you that it's out there. Retraining challenges, that has to do with whether a person can in fact easily be trained from one thing to the other. In today's lecture, see what Florida has to say about that. We've had him once before, but I think you'll find this one interesting. And finally, the long-term effects. It can be either way. Who knows? There are quite a few of the people we've looked at so far, including Negroponte and possibly Florida, and quite a few others, Brynjolfsson, for example, who think the long-term effects of all of these changes in the input-output ratio, which is really what productivity is all about, are going to be positive. So I leave it to you to decide, but I just wanted you to remember that those are all issues that may be interesting, useful, and certainly require us to think deeply about in this course. Okay, here's the lesson. Some of these you can breeze through, others I hope you'll watch more carefully. The first one is it will help you on the final exam. That's all I'll tell you, but it's a reminder that there are plenty of ICT policy issues, and this is just a list that came out a few years ago of several of them. The Berkman report is old. It's like 4 or 5 years old, but I have it out there because it's a very useful, I think, description of some of the key issues in examining telecommunications trends. For example, there are a couple of charts that show that the more providers you have, how the unit prices go down dramatically. If you have more competition, you'd say, well, that's a pretty obvious thing. But there it is. There's some interesting numbers, not just from the United States, but from a lot of other sources. The Tim O'Reilly interview, it's very short. It's only about a minute, but I think it'll give you some good insights on this subject. The 2 from Eric Brynjolfsson, we know him already. He's the MIT professor who is very visible in this issue of who's ahead, us or the machines. And I give you 2 of his. Well, one of them you've already seen, the conversation with Eric Brynjolfsson, but this other one you haven't, Race with the Machines, so I think you'll find it useful. Andrew McAfee's, for some of you, may be the most interesting of all, because it has to do with what future jobs look like. It fits very nicely with next week's lesson, which is about the future. And finally, Richard Florida on creativity and technology. He's a pretty interesting guy. He used to be a colleague of mine here in the School of Public Policy, and now he's in Toronto. So that's it. I hope it's a good week for you. The research, I've seen quite a few research papers ahead of time because many of you have sent me your drafts, but you certainly don't have to do that. And I look forward to seeing those as they start coming in. The final deadline is the 13th, but do let me know if you want to have that as your due date, because otherwise they're due in a few days. That's it. Thanks again. Hope all is going well for you.